Hello, welcome back. Today we're dealing with a necessary evil, moving. The worst. Like, there is nothing so exhausting, so tiring as moving. It's such a stressful time. So today we're gonna walk through some things on how to prepare for a move. Now, I have moved countless times across the country. I've lived abroad, so I've moved across the world and back. During college, you move all the time. Like, I would move often. So I feel like at this point, I've moved a lot. And I've learned a lot of things in my time. And for this video, my husband and I are moving apartments. We're moving to a new apartment soon, and I just know that there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of things we need to do to prepare for that. So today I'm gonna walk you through how to prepare to move apartments and some things that you can do to make it easier once the day, the week finally arrives. So for some context about our moving, we are moving out on the 1st of the month, and then we have a whole week to move out of our current apartment. So we're planning on cleaning the new place for a couple days, moving things for a couple days, and then cleaning the old apartment for a couple days. So the great thing is we do have a little bit of extra time, but we also work during the day. So it's gonna be a balancing act, to say the least. I'm gonna take you through my step-by-step process of how to plan a move. So when you're planning on moving out, one of the first things that you have to do after you find somewhere else to move to is notify your apartment or landlord that you're going to be moving out. So typically they have you write a notice of when you're going to move out. In Texas, they require 60 days notice before move out. So we put our notice in a little while ago to let our apartment know that we're moving out. And then once you've done that, you can kind of sit for a little bit, but I wouldn't wait too long before you get all the information about moving out. There's a lot of things that are good to ask ahead of time, so that way you're not rushing or confused and get all frustrated in the moment when you're actually moving. When I am working with my current apartment complex, they typically have all the little things that you need to do to prepare for your move out, and also a cleaning checklist. It's not a great checklist, so we're gonna make our own later. One of the big questions that I ask when I go to talk to the leasing office after I have given my notice, I'm planning to move out, I ask about all the fees, because they like to charge you for things and you don't always know about it. And it's great that you have a security deposit, but you also want to get as much of your money back as possible. So one of the things I always ask about is carpet cleaning, because typically they'll always clean the carpets. Our office told us to not even worry about cleaning our own carpets because they will automatically do that. And they told us how much they charge for that. They talked to us about some different maintenance things that you may be responsible for, but it's actually cheaper to let them pay for and just take it out of your deposit than for you to fix it yourself. So that's another great thing to ask. There were some things that they were really helpful about. We have some holes from hanging things on the wall that we want to fill in, and she just told us, hey, we have tons of cans of paint for the apartment, so just ask the maintenance people to give you some paint so you can fix it. So there's some things that you can figure out ahead of time what you can take care of and minimize the charging, or things that you may just want to let them handle. Another thing I would strongly recommend doing when you're moving out is to pull out your move-in inspection. Whenever I move somewhere, I always write down anything that's possibly wrong with the apartment, so that way when I move out, I can refer back to it to be like, hey, you can't charge us for this because it was here when we got here. We're leaving it in the same condition. So I would definitely recommend taking any of the pictures that you took when you first moved in and just have those ready for when you're doing your move out inspection. I would highly recommend coming to the actual apartment for the inspection, because again, you have that record of what was wrong when you got in here, and then you can advocate for yourself. I think that's one of the biggest things, is you just don't want to be charged more than you need to for things. So sometimes if something isn't cleaned right away, like maybe you missed something little, you can be like, okay, let me just clean that right now, and then they won't charge you a cleaning fee to get the whole apartment cleaned. So it definitely is advantageous to do the walkthrough with them so that you don't get charged extra for something that is an easy fix that you could do in the moment, or something that you aren't responsible for because it was here when you got here. Another thing I would recommend doing that's huge is finishing any last minute maintenance requests. We're about 3 weeks out from moving, and there's a couple little things that need to get fixed before we move. So I would definitely tackle those a month or so before you move out, so that way again you don't get charged for it later. Another important part of moving out is to close out your utilities. You can either transfer them to your new place, or if you're moving further away, they don't have the same benefits offered, then you would cancel them. So you need to figure out what the process is for canceling or transferring your utilities. That's huge. Sometimes that's easy to forget because it's not physically in your house, or the maintenance people or the front office doesn't handle it. So don't forget about your utilities. And the last thing I would say to keep in mind is paying any outstanding rent. They might prorate you for the time that you're going to be staying in your apartment, and also on top of that, paying for any of the utilities that are outstanding. So just budget that ahead of time, because there's going to be some things. Sometimes they'll take that out of your deposit, so I would also ask them that when you go to ask them about all of the checkout information. As I mentioned, one of the things that is important to do is to take care of any outstanding tasks that you are responsible for. So we have some holes from hanging things in our apartment, and we just need to fill them and paint over it. But that's something that takes a little bit of time, and we don't really want to do it right when we're getting ready to move. So that's something that we're going to try to do ahead of time, a couple weeks before. The other thing that is kind of big for us is when we moved here, we got a puppy, and he had a couple mistakes. And most of our apartment is hardwood floor, but our bedroom is carpeted, and there was a couple places where he peed. Although they are gonna carpet clean, we have a portable carpet cleaner, and so we just feel like it would be best for us to just deep clean from where we cleaned it up in the moment, but we want to make sure that it's really clean and that we won't get charged for it for any reason, and so we are gonna take care of that ourselves. So identifying those big tasks and being able to plan time ahead of time, not when you're about to move, to complete them, can be so beneficial in making sure that you have a smoother transition as you move. Now, in terms of moving into your new apartment, you will again want to reach out to their leasing office and find out the details that they have. In our case, they are requiring a deposit and obviously first month's rent. And so we need to have that money budgeted and saved up ahead of time, so that way we can give that to them when we move in. Another important thing is scheduling a walkthrough. It's kind of uncommon with apartments to just be able to walk in and see the unit that you're going to be renting unless you're getting it pretty last minute. So for us, we were able to walk through a floor plan that was similar to the one that we are renting, but we haven't gotten to see the actual unit we're moving into. So I went ahead and called the office and scheduled a time for us to go in, walk through it all, make sure it's all good. So that's an important part of preparing to move into a new apartment. Along with that, that can be a great time, especially if you do it a little bit before you move in, to take a peek and notice if there's any maintenance that needs to be done. It's better to get it done with before you actually move in than when you've already moved in and you have to move stuff, or they need to clean stuff or paint things, you know. So eliminate the hassle by getting it checked out before you actually move in. With that, when you actually do move in, you need to figure out when you can pick up the keys, and you also need to be prepared to take pictures and document any issues with your apartment when you first move in, because again, when you move out, it makes it a lot easier to have that documentation so you can leave it just as you found it and not be charged for anything that's amiss. And then finally, of course, is creating a move-in cleaning checklist, because don't we all know, I don't trust other people cleaning. I really don't. I think you can tell me it's clean, but if I don't know it's clean because I've cleaned, then I'm not gonna trust it. Everyone's definition of clean is different, and my expectation of clean is up here and most people's is like down here. So for me, I just need the peace of mind knowing I went through, cleaned absolutely everything, absolute deep clean. Everything needs to be clean to my standard before we move in, so we can have the peace of mind of knowing that it is fully cleared. When we moved into this apartment, yuck. I was disgusted because you could tell that they had a cat. If they had really cleaned, you shouldn't have been able to tell that there was a cat who lived here. And like, they didn't clean their drains. It's just gross. It's just gross. And I don't want to be living in somebody else's stuff, you know? So that is why it's important to make sure you do a good deep clean so you know what your living situation is going to be like when you move in. You can go to bed at night knowing that you have deep cleaned it and killed every possible little thing that could have come from somebody else. So now that I've walked through kind of those big picture pieces, I'm going to show you how I plan everything out on physical paper. I just love checking things off a list. And I just feel like checking things off on my phone is not as satisfying, and I just can't plan and do my lists and calendars to plan and prepare for moving. Now that the calendar is all planned, I'm going to move on to writing a cleaning to-do list. I feel like the instructions given by the apartment were like, clean the kitchen. I was like, well, no, duh, clean the kitchen, but like, let's go through and write each individual thing in the kitchen that needs to be cleaned. And it's a great way to delegate responsibilities and tasks, because I know for us on the calendar, one thing I wrote was send out schedule. And so I'm gonna tell all my friends when I'm cleaning, when I'm moving, so that way if they're free, they can come and help out, which would be amazing. And a lot of my friends have already offered to help. So it just makes the load a little lighter, and so I can easily delegate, okay, you're in this room, this is everything that you need to do. So it just makes it go so much smoother to have a plan already ahead. So now I'm gonna go ahead and write my cleaning list. My cleaning list is done and made, so I have lots of direction for when the time comes, so I don't have to think about it. It's already taken care of. I just have to tackle the list one by one. And it's something that can be used in both the old apartment and the new apartment. So win-win, less work for all of us to do. Thanks so much for tackling this pre-move, pre-clean adventure with me. It can be so overwhelming to move, but planning everything ahead of time makes it so much easier, way less overwhelming, and just feel more organized and prepared, and allows for better delegation when you're having people come help you with the move. Hopefully there was a couple tips and tricks that will help you in your move to make it go smoother. Thanks again for watching this video, and we'll catch you in the next one.